Thank you for coming back around for another Monster Monday, the best way to start your week. We're exploring a somewhat new and at the same time ancient, in fact you might even say Jurassic World, as we welcome in the Indominus Rex.
It can camouflage!
A man-made monstrous mauler, the Indominus Rex was the primary non-human antagonist of Jurassic World, as well as a major adversary in the Camp Cretaceous series. Now, maybe I don't really know this series, but the Indominus Rex seems like a bit much for what I figure to be a children's show. Anyway, the I-Rex itself is a hybrid dinosaur, mostly based on the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it does have at least 10 other known dinosaurs in its makeup, as well as 3 more modern animals. But keep in mind that those are just the known animals in its design. There might be even more mighty members to its menacing mix. I definitely had to build the I-Rex at a higher level than the T-Rex, and after talking out with the folks over on the Discord, I settled on building it at level 14. Obviously, the I-Rex is a dinosaur in its hybridized state led me to using the mutant trait as well. However, you may notice that rather than the animal trait, it uses the beast trait, representing its unusual intellect and its ability to craft plots that allowed it to escape and trigger the events of Jurassic World itself. Our incredible, indelible Indominus is a bit of a brute, despite all her cunning, and we demonstrate this with an extreme strength. I actually followed the Tyranno's design a little bit here when I was figuring out the ability scores, which does see us using a high constitution as well. The Indominus is a big and burly brute, but all that bulk means its dexterity is actually low. I didn't go as far down as a T-Rex did, but it's certainly not a value to write home about. Its wisdom falls into a moderate value, and its intelligence, befitting a beast rather than an animal, is merely a -3. I went with a moderate perception bonus matching its wisdom, while it also has low light vision and a keen scent, both of which draw from the T-Rex once again, though you could argue about including another sense based on the pit organs of the viper incorporated into its genetic makeup. For its skills, it has the classic combo of acrobatics and athletics, but they are respectively low and extreme this time around. The latter of these does feature in its kit, as does its moderate stealth, which will let it spring upon its captors even when they're standing mere feet away from this grotesque giant. Sticking true to its brute roots, the Indominus Rex has a legitimately low armor class, which is offset by a high pool of hit points. However, with all the crits that it is sure to be taking due to this AC, I felt that it needed a little bit more juice in the dino defense department. This led to the inclusion of a minor resistance to physical damage, that is inspired by its ability to tank gunfire with no apparent problem when it gets encountered. I went for something a little different with an extreme fortitude this time around, but a low reflex and will, despite the differing values in the related ability scores. It may be a beast and smarter than other dinosaurs, but it is by no means a nerd to mental manipulations. Getting into the offensive options of our obscenely omnivorous opponent, it has 3 strikes. 2 of them match the Tyrannosaurus, its drawn foot strike, but the third is a claw strike. Some of the design notes of the I-Rex specifically call out the use of the Therizinosaurus to give it more powerful forelimbs and stronger claws, which I sought to replicate here. These claws and jaws have a moderate attack bonus, whereas the foot strike has a high attack bonus in my attempt to make it something worth actually using, as it doesn't actually feel like it is on the T-Rex. To balance this strike deals merely moderate damage, which is the lowest damage out of all of its possible attacks. Its claws come slicing in with a high damage, but include the fatal trait so that on a lucky crit, it can make its victims feel the terror of its scythe-like blades. Since I opted to include the fatal trait on these claws, I decided to leave such traits off of its jaws, and instead just have them deal extreme damage. This does make them its most fearsome attack, but it lacks the accuracy of its stomping feet and the deadlier crits of the claws, which means that they are all hopefully equally appealing to use, as is often my design goal for any monster I make. The Indominus is, as I've established, a monstrous menagerie mashup of dinosaurs and other animals alike, and I sought to represent that in its very design. I attempted to make this apparent by including a number of actions abilities from other dinosaurs, and I even suggested using such abilities in the sidebar. Now, hopefully this doesn't make the I-Rex too boring, too derivative, and to help that, I did include a few more unique abilities in its design. Firstly, the mighty Indominus has Dinosaur Dominance. This passive effect makes it difficult for other dinosaurs to take action against it, until it proves itself to be a threat to their life. When it comes to any dinosaurs that the party might have at their command, they'll need to succeed at a high DC nature check to be able to make them approach and actually fight against this animalistic abomination. Another unique ability for the I-Rex is its chromatophore cells, the result of including cuttlefish DNA in its design. This allows it to practically perfectly blend into its surroundings. In-game, this takes the form of it becoming hidden to most creatures, though only concealed to creatures that are actually adjacent to it. There's no cooldown on this, and it's only a single action, but its duration is very limited to balance with that aspect of it. I could maybe consider having movement also in the effect, but I am a little worried that at that point it gets too weak. As for its other aspects, most of them are borrowed from the T-Rex, as that is the basis of its design. We can see this with its pin prey, fling, and more general swallowhole and trample, which are all pretty directly stolen from the Tyrant King. The DC for fling specifically is based on the similar DC for the Tyranno's fling, which is the amount of DC for a creature 3 levels lower than it. I'm not sure how Paizo landed on this particular DC, but I did decide to trust them on this one. For a higher DC and more potent effect, we have Trample, which does use a high DC for the level and deals damage equal to its foot. Which, now that I think about it, might be the main reason that the T-Rex has a foot strike, though its pin prey does also come in handy every now and then when it gets those lucky crits. The I-Rex also has my buddy Blue's favorite ability, Swallow Whole.
You're my boy, Blue!
Thanks to the Viper inclusion in its genome, the Indominus Rex can open its jaws wide enough they can even swallow huge creatures with a successful check. This deals low damage and has a rupture value between moderate and high damage, so that heroes have a chance to cut their way out. In addition to those abilities, I also featured the Raptor's Leaping Charge, though I scaled it up a teensy tiny bit and changed the Talon Strike to a Claw Strike, to better accommodate the I-Rex's assortment of armaments. This is a fun little ability providing some mobility and action efficiency, while also letting it increase its 2-hit with its claws. Speaking of claws, which it inherited from the Therizinosaurus, it also inherited Swiping Claws. For 2 actions, this isn't quite action efficiency, but rather multiple attack penalty efficiency, where it gets both strikes at the same bonus and then increases the penalty afterwards. This has a potentially funny / horrifying combo, where the I-Rex critically hits with a foot strike to trigger pin prey, and then proceeds to savage its pin prey with these swiping claws, tearing them to shreds.
To shreds, you say?
Its patchwork nature makes it a quick topic to talk about, but hopefully a fun monster to run. Incensed Indignation Incarnate, the indomitable Indominus intends to intercept, impair, and incapacitate any intruders or interlopers it interrupts in its irreverent annihilation. I love me some dinosaurs, so this was a fun one to put together. I designed it with the rare tag rather than unique, so that you could potentially run a pair or pack of them as a danger, though it could just as easily be a solitary threat, especially where it has a more bestial intelligence. You might also expand on the idea of its dinosaur dominance and have it leading a whole drove of dino dangers. Now, before I go, I will be out next week on vacation. Sorry about another one coming up so soon, but it is the summer. It's vacation time, baby! With all that being said, let me know what you think of this monster and what other sorts of creatures you'd like to see by leaving a comment. If you already like what you see here, then go ahead and show it with a like. And if you want more, subscribe to the channel and check out the blog, which is linked below along with the Twitter and Discord. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.